Hello, everyone. Welcome to Monday Live with Alan and Greg and our guest, James from Quaint and Curious Volumes.
Hello, everybody.
If you're in the chat room,
James,
go ahead and leave some comments so we know that you're there. Now, my voice may be a little scratchy. I just got back from a cruise, and my wife has been diagnosed with COVID with the home test.
shit.
So I probably have it.
Oh man.
I did not take the test. I did not take the test. I'm feeling a little bit off, but not too off. So
Have you had it before?
no, I've never had it before.
I haven't either. How about you, James? Have you had it?
I had it last fall. Me and my wife both got it.
Damn, you guys got the COVID, huh?
It wasn't fun. It was relatively mild, but I don't recommend it if you can.
I don't either. Hers is mild too.
Mm-hmm.
She was out there working in the garden today, so she's obviously not in the bed suffering too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Randy.
Randy Ray.
Hey, Randy.
Yeah, I'm going to mention Randy and his buddy reading Wolf Hall with Aaron Faster and I'm ahead of them both, but I'll talk about that later.
Okay.
I want to ask Greg a question because about you say that cats don't have like a long memory, but do they acknowledge you when you come home?
Yes. Cats have a long-term memory and a short-term memory.
Oh.
So your cats will remember you because you're there with them every day. But cats have a short-term memory of about 10 minutes. So let's say you're walking down the hall and you step on a tail and they screech and they run away. They're all upset. They'll forget about it in 10 minutes because it's not an everyday occurrence. But since they see you every day, you feed them every day, you pet them every day, they will remember you for a much longer time.
So is Teddy on you to go for a walk?
Oh, yeah. Teddy got his walk. My wife walked him tonight.
Oh, she did? Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
He's down here right now meowing at me to go for another walk. Because he's forgotten that he's been on one.
Oh, yeah. He's forgotten already.
He's just saying, just take me out. Teddy?
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Must have been a nice day in Virginia.
Yeah. Come on,
nice there, too.
Here we go. Here's the boy himself.
Oh. Teddy's my favorite. Teddy's a walking cat.
He's a good
walk without a leash. Then you mentioned Pip in your other video, too. Pip, the three-legged cat. His middle name is Lucky. Pip's like kind of worn.
Before we get into books, I generally like to delay it a little bit because I've gotten people commenting and say they don't always show up right on time.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, you've already talked about your books. And they've shown up. So let's give them a couple more minutes to get here. But anything else interesting you guys have been doing?
Go ahead, James.
Well, I did precious little interesting over the last couple of days, but
oh no.
Yeah, no. Well, it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah.
I went to the North Carolina Folk Festival last weekend, and that's always a good time.
Oh, I bet.
And
I've never heard of the North Carolina Book Festival before.
Not book festival, folk festival.
Folk festival.
FOLK. Yeah. They do have it. It does happen on usually the same weekend as the local book festival, but I go to the folk festival instead of the book festival.
Did you play you banjo or anything?
No, I didn't. There's a thing called the National Folk Festival, which is run by I forget what the nonprofit organization is, but they get a lot of funding, and they do the National Folk Festival in different locations for 3 years. And so they'll do it in 3 years for 3 years in one location, and then they move to another location. And the idea is that by the time they're done doing it for 3 years, they've established a local infrastructure to keep it going. So they did this in Greensboro starting 10 years ago. And once they moved on, it was the National Folk Festival. It became the North Carolina Folk Festival. So there's one in Richmond. There's one in Bangor, Maine. There's one in Lowell, Massachusetts. It moves around every 3 years, and usually it takes root and becomes a sort of local tradition, and it's always a good time. Is that
the same time everywhere in the country? Because I live pretty near Richmond. I mean, Richmond is like 60 miles from me, so that's a very doable day trip.
Yeah, I think it's for most of them. It is around the same time in the autumn, and and the Richmond Folk Festival, it might have already happened. I'm not sure, but I mean, where you are, you can go to all kinds of festivals. Up in DC and yeah.
So let's say hello to Hannah.
Hey, Hannah.
Yeah, a lot of people are here. Hey, Anna.
Ariane.
Hello.
Brianne.
Nicole.
Hey, Nicole.
Jess.
Patricia. Hey, Patricia.
Constance.
Yes, hello, Rain.
Hello, Floss.
Hey, Floss.
Hey, Flossy.
And Jess said, every time I hear Bangor, Maine, I think of Stephen King. I do.
Yeah, Justin did a vlog on his house like a year or so ago. Just does a lot of cool vlogs.
Yeah.
Keltsmer.
My community folk festival was last weekend too. I was especially intrigued by the Saltsmere band that blended Irish and traditional klezmer
music. Yeah, there are. It's kind of a sort of subgenre of bands that combine klezmer with other kinds of music, and there's one that I actually saw at the North Carolina Folk Festival last year that called their music klezgrass, as in klezmer and bluegrass.
Is klezmer close to bluegrass? I'm unfamiliar.
I'm not sure what klezmer is. I've never heard of it before.
So klezmer is Eastern European Jewish instrumental folk music.
All right.
So,
still having a hard time imagining it.
I can imagine Jewish folk music now in my head a little bit.
Alan, think of all the
like this.
Well, so that kind of dancing is.
That's what I think of when I think of Jewish Russian.
Well, if you've seen Fiddler on the Roof, a lot of that music is influenced by klezmer music, and that's the dance scene or the wedding scene. There's some klezmer-esque music, and that dancing with the kicking out and all that. It's a kind of dance called a kolomake, and that would have been played by klezmer bands, because in Eastern Europe wedding musicians would have played for whoever needed them. So a Russian wedding and a Jewish wedding and a Gypsy wedding
mixed with Irish traditional.
So in America, you have a different blend of groups that you have to play music for.
Indeed.
But I mean, it's part of it. It's that sort of fusion is part of the klezmer tradition, and so people just sort of continue it like that.
Cool.
Hi, welcome to Klezmer Talk.
You just never know what's going to show up on this channel. Hello, Lee.
Hey, Lee.
All right. So James, as tradition, in this show, you can talk about a couple books that you're currently reading,
Okay.
or just finished reading, or just want to highlight. And
Before we start, my knee is acting up, so like I have to stand up periodically.
all right,
So
Alan, it wouldn't be one of your live streams if you didn't stand up a couple of times.
no, and leave the screen for a little bit.
Well, so I'd be disappointed if I came on and you didn't get up and go.
it's like James starts and okay, see you.
So I've been reading, let's see, The Good Soldier, A Tale of Passion by Ford Maddox Ford. And this, I held up this book in my very first video and I said, I'm going to read this year. And I finally got around to it this past weekend. It's a relatively short book from the World War I era, and it has very little to do with military life. One of the main characters is a retired Army captain and in the British Army. At one point, the narrator, who was an unreliable, but he describes this retired Army captain's daily schedule when he was actually in the Army. And it has him getting up at 7 and taking a cold bath, then having breakfast at 8, and then dealing with his regiment from 9 to 1, and then doing various, country gentleman English things. So I guess cushy appointment, you only had to do it for 4 hours a day, and then you went and shot quails and chased women. So the tale of passion bit of this is that this English Army officer is he can't keep his hands off of other men's wives, and it gets him into trouble. It's a really well written book, and it depends a lot on the voice of the narrator. He's got a really distinctive style, and Ford Maddox Ford was an English writer, but this character is American. And so he kind of can take a bit of a confused, a sort of manufactured confusion about English ways at times. He's like, I didn't know anything about English people. And it's like, well, you are, the narrator doesn't know about English people, but
I know Ford Maddox Ford. I've never read him. I should, but him and like Joyce were same circles in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
What you mentioned it briefly is that it's famous for its unreliable narrator.
Yeah,
and I think, was it one of the first modern novels that really got into the unreliable narrator?
It might be. I don't know. He was writing it in 1913.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, that's before World War One.
Yeah, that's when he started writing it, and he wanted to call it The Saddest Story, but his publisher said by the time he'd sent it to the publisher, World War I was on. It was happening. They didn't call it World War I then, because they didn't know.
Just the Great War.
Yes,
right. The Great War.
And the publisher said, this is going to bum people out. No one's going to want to buy a book called The Saddest Story while we're engulfed in this war. And Ford Maddox Ford was actually in the Army. He had joined the Army. He was like 40 years old, and he joined the Army. And he sent either a letter or a telegraph to his publisher and said, well, you'd probably want to call it The Good Soldier or something. And then they went and they published it, and he was like, So
okay.
there you go.
It's one of those books that's been on my list that I
Mhm.
want to get around to one of these days.
Well, it's not very long, and if you can like hook in with the style, the narrator's voice, it'll kind of pick you up, and you'll be like, well, where the heck is this going? Because it's kind of confusing. He's a little confused. It jumps around in time, but it's still it's really good.
Cool.
So that's what I'm reading. I started a little bit of, and this is not very short, but it's
that's a great graphic novel.
It's Berlin by Jason Lutz.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And this is I've had this on my shelf for a long time. I don't even remember really why I bought it, but it's I guess it was originally published in like 12 smaller volumes, and it's about Weimar Germany, I guess. I just started reading it, and it has an art student who's traveling on a train, and she meets a publisher, and they have a little conversation. But it's, I mean,
At first, I thought you were holding up Berlin Alexander plants.
Well, actually, that's what is depicted. I probably can't
really
show up, but it is Alexander Platz in the picture. Yeah, and this was in the background in one of my videos, and I have a commenter, Libro Paradiso. He has a channel of his own, but he only puts something up like every couple of months. But I really like this channel.
In the chat room.
What's that?
Libro Paradiso is in the chat room.
I'm not ready. Paradiso.
I'm already
yeah, he's got a great channel. When he posts stuff, and he was looking in the background of one of my videos. He says, "Is that Berlin by Jason Lutz? It's really good." And I said, "Okay, well, I'll start reading." And so it's he's also he's been encouraging me to give Good Soldier a try for a while too. So
cool.
So it's an all Libro Paradiso week for me, I guess. So that's what I've got going on.
Let's catch up with the comments.
Sure.
We've got Read by Fred. Hello, Fred.
Hey, Fred.
Here's Libro Paradiso.
Paradiso.
As James knows, The Good Soldier is one of my favorite novels. I have it next to The Great Gatsby and The Age of Innocence. I like to read all three together.
I love those other two. So
yeah. I like the other two. I have not read Good Soldier yet, but I think I will. Jess, currently I'm reading Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. Has anyone else read it? Yes, I have read it twice. I have also ordered the graphic novel version for my banned books project because the graphic novel version is also banned. So I should get that in a couple of weeks from the library.
Yeah, I like Margaret Atwood.
Yeah. James, what was the title again? I think he's talking to the Berlin or The Good Soldier.
Berlin is one, and
The Good Soldier.
The Good Soldier, A Tale of Passion.
Yeah.
Now, were you talking about James? Were you talking about Atwood's Onyx and Crate? Is it, or somebody in your comments was?
It wasn't me, because I haven't read it. So,
Oryx and Crake is pretty good. MJ has a banned books club that she's doing on Fable, and they will be doing Oryx and Crake in October.
Oh, I might have to pick that up because I've got all these books in one volume by her. And I've read The Edible Woman. That's a kind of trippy story, but I'd like to read Lady Oracle too.
I've read that one.
Cat's Eye by her. I love that. I read a lot of her back in the day, like in the 90s.
So Berlin, you started fantastic. James, Berlin was published as a comic.
Yeah.
Hannah, do any of you remember the Encyclopedia Brown story where he proves a document is fake because it refers to World War I? I must have read that 50 years ago. I don't recall that one offhand.
Don't remember that one, though. I did love those stories. Yeah.
Gareth is here.
Gareth.
And people saying hi to James. Randy, I've read The Handmaid's Tale for the second time a couple of months ago. It's remarkable. I agree. And Randy says, The Great Gatsby may be my favorite novel ever.
It's up there.
It is. I don't think it'd be my favorites, but it's a very well-crafted novel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like
it may be one of the most perfectly crafted novels. You know,
Yeah, I like Appointment in Samsara. I like Appointment in Samsara too.
I do too.
I like to compare and contrast the two novels sometime. I've been thinking about it for a while. But
okay, well, Alan, you're up. What have you been reading?
Yeah, I could hold up the same old books I did last week, but I did read a new one. At least I listened to it. It was only like 6 hours long over the weekend, and it's The Death of Truth by Makito Katatani. She's that Pulitzer Prize winning journalist from New York Times,
Mm-hmm.
and it's notes on falsehood in the age of Trump. And it was published in 2018, like 2018. And I've been wanting to do a video on it all weekend, but I've been getting like just triggered by the events of the day. Like every day, something new was coming up with the guy, you know? And I don't want to get on a tangent, but she was kind of speaking to the choir to me, you know, but like everything she said, she brought up a lot of literary references too, like Orwell and, you know, how the history is rewritten and like that. And if, you know, all the things that Trump's done, the most, well, not the, it's hard to rate them, but to me, one of the most heinous ones is like all the fake news and the, you know, the questioning journalists and things like that, you know, and so I don't know. I don't want to go on a tangent. Like I said, I finished Wolf Hall and Randy Ray's in the house. He's buddy reading this with Aaron Facer and I'm ahead of both of them. I am going back and rereading parts. I want to say hi to Patricia H. too. I know she's a friend of yours, James, and
She is great commenter.
we've been watching. Yeah, she's been down to Portland, so we met briefly twice. And I have a friend as well that lives in the same town. I won't mention, of course, but her and I watch Seattle Seahawks games, like not just text and BS, you know. So that's cool. Like weekends are football for me, college, and then NFL. But that's why I like audiobooks, you know, because I have Wolf Hall on audio. I always say I need all the help I can get. So I use audio and then read along, and then I'll hold up this again. Greg just started this. We have the secret Kurt Vonnegut group that's been around for 3 years. It's just on Boxer. We're reading all the Vonnegut books, and we're on what? God bless you, Mr. Rosewater. And then lastly, I think I'll mention this novel by Mark Harris, an old mentor of mine. He's been dead a long time, but he wrote Bang the Drum Slowly and a bunch of sequels to it. But he was a mentor of mine and really a great writer. A lot of he's really humorous. And I have Wake Up Stupid. I'm gonna see if Greg likes it. It's really for Shorty September, you know. But I learned a lot from him at Arizona State back in the day. And that's about it. Going to be reading and watching The Tempest. One of my favorite Shakespeare's.
What version are you watching?
What version? Probably the Christopher Plummer one.
Okay.
I forget what year. Or there's an old one might be fun to watch from the 50s.
Maybe.
Which one do you like?
The only one I've watched it's a BBC one. I forget. It has it's in color. And Puck is like painted gold and wearing tiny little bikini briefs.
Is he male or female?
Male, and there's an extended sort of modern dance sequence in the fourth act,
Yeah.
And everyone is wearing the skimpiest of attire.
Excellent.
So
Yeah, I remember
That
seeing it one
sounds like
time
fun.
where Puck was a male, but he was real effeminate, and he was a great dancer, though. You know, you got to be a great dancer to do Ariel. Let's see.
That's right. I said Puck, but it is Ariel. That's right. That's
Right.
confusing my
Your
sprites.
fairies.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm watching Christopher Plummer 2010. There's a lot of commentary on here. I saw an old one though, and it's not popping up now. Anyway, I was back in the '80s at Kent State. I was like on the crew for the Tempest, and I remember the opening scene. It was in the round. They had really set up really cool, like the ship. But I was in the background, like shaking one of those things with like tin makes the sound of thunder. It was fun. Then I'd sweep up. But I saw it a lot of times.
Cool. Well, I was on a cruise last week, so I couldn't read as much as I usually do. But we did have a few days at sea and read a few books. And I read this on my Kindle, but I also have a hardcover. This is Titanium Noir by Nick Harkaway. Nick Harkaway is the son of Jean Le Carré.
Oh.
And he's actually a very good novelist in his own right.
Yeah, I know you like that type of genre.
I guess his father taught him well.
Oh.
But this is described as a mashup between Philip K. Dick and Raymond Chandler.
No shit.
And it's set in the future. I don't know if it's the United States or Great Britain. It's sort of left ambiguous.
Oh, yeah.
They do have handguns, so I'm sort of thinking maybe it's the United States, maybe not. But it's just interesting because it's set in the future. There are these humans known as Titans, and I'm not going to pronounce the guy's name because it's one of those really impossible names to pronounce. And he invented this drug, and the drug, if you take it, will basically revert you back to just about prepubescence.
Oh man, I want to try that.
But the only problem is you're still full grown, but in prepubescence you have growth spurts, and you get another growth spurt.
Oh.
So all these people who take the drug are like 7 feet tall.
Oh, jeez.
8 feet tall. If you take it more than once, you can get up to like 13 feet tall.
Oh man, that's crazy.
And your bones are thick and heavy.
Yeah.
So in this, there's a murder. One of these Titans has maybe committed suicide, maybe murdered. And there's this detective who is not a police officer, but works with the police force, because the police force does not want to deal with Titans because they're all fabulously wealthy. And you don't want to mess with the wealthy people when you're police. So it really works well. You get that very good detective feeling, and you get that science fiction feeling that you're in a different universe and a different culture. And you have these Titans, which are human, but aren't really human at the same time.
How did you hear about that book?
I've read Nick Harkaway books before.
Oh.
This is his 5th novel. I've read 4 other books by him.
Huh.
So I really like him. I mean, I guess maybe writing talent can be inherited or taught. But both John Le Carré and Nick Harkaway are fantastic writers. And they're very different. I mean, hold on for 1 second. This is the COVID coming through.
No, you've been coughing for a while. I'm on him to see a doctor, but go
I've
ahead.
got a doctor's appointment
You do? Okay.
January 6th.
January. It takes that long for you? Damn,
It takes
man.
that long to get an appointment.
Takes me like a week and a half here, but
I called him up and said, when can you see me? They say January 6th.
God.
And it's not even with the real doctors, it's with the interns. If I wanted to go with a real doctor, it'd be June or July.
I don't know. Sorry to hear that.
I don't know. I'm not in charge of them. So this is a fantastic book.
Sounds like it.
If you want a great book, Nick Harkaway's first book, The Gone Away World, is another mix of sort of mystery and science.
What's it called?
The Gone Away World. There was a book critic called Nancy Pearl, and she worked out of the Seattle Public Library. And she said, when you're reading The Gone Away World, you will get about 2/3 of the way through the book, and you will be gobsmacked.
Huh.
And you'll say, how the hell did I miss that? And you're going to want to turn back to page 1 and start over again.
Jeez.
And I got to that point, and I go, damn, how did I miss that?
Gobsmacked.
Gobsmacked. I didn't start over, but I can definitely see why some people would want to start over and just. Now, this one maybe isn't as good as the Gone Away World, but it's fantastic. I picked it up on Kindle for $1.99 sale, so definitely worthwhile. I am going to review this next week, I think, and I think I'm going to give away my hardcover. I have the Kindle, so let some other people enjoy this book. Another one I've been looking at.
I just put a hold on the Gone Away World.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll be reading that. Thanks.
I showed this for the 1001 paintings you must see before you die.
Oh.
The only thing is the paintings and the reproductions are beautiful. The text is turgid. It's art critics trying to describe art, and I don't think it's really easy to write about art. You can say when the artist did this, what he was doing, but you really can't describe it.
Yeah, that's the whole story.
I'm having fun looking at the pictures. And as Alan said, I'm reading God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater by Kurt Vonnegut. I don't think this is going to be one of my favorite Kurt Vonnegut books.
No. Reminds me of Nixon, kind of.
It starts off with a critique of capitalism and money, and was written in 1965. I think it's still spot on about how the rich just have too much damn money. And that was 1965. And they have
You don't say.
They have even more money nowadays. So,
Yeah.
that part was good. He sort of meanders in the middle. And I've got like 28 pages in this version before I'm done. And that's what I've been reading.
Greg, have you ever read a book by Tom Wolfe called The Painted Word?
No, I have not.
Oh, yeah, I read that. It's
a
thin book. That's a great art book.
Yeah, it's about art criticism and the relation between certain high-powered critics and the way that art trends come and go, and how his theory was that it was kind of led by the critics and coming up with theories to go with the art.
Yeah, you should read that, Greg. That's a good one.
The Painted Word. Who was it by again?
Tom Wolfe.
Tom Wolfe?
Yeah.
The Tom Wolfe.
Right. Yeah.
The Right Stuff fan.
Yeah. So
Fire the Vanities. Yeah, I've read a lot of his stuff.
An art historian would probably find much to dispute in it, but it is very stylishly written, and you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be better than the prose in the book on that 1001 painting.
At the end, he has this theory that in the future you'll go to an art museum, and what you'll see instead of a big painting with a little plaque next to it saying who painted in the medium and all that, instead it'll be like a big wall of text and then a little picture on the side to illustrate the theory. That's
It's funny. But we were trying to read What is Art by Tolstoy.
I couldn't finish it.
Dry. That was hard to read.
It was impossible to read. Well, not impossible. It's just that I've got better things to do in my life nowadays.
I like the synopsis of it, like the key points in it. But
all right, so let's figure out. Here's Randy Ray. Woman at the Edge of Time might appeal to the folks. Kindred by Olivia Clark, too.
Oh, yeah.
Olivia Butler.
Yeah, Butler.
Butler is her last name.
Octavia.
That's not Kindred. Flossie and I, buddy, read this. But Kindred is a trip. Yeah, it's where she wakes up in slavery.
Yep.
That's not spoiler, I hope.
It's not my favorite book by her, oddly enough. I like the one where she was kidnapped by aliens and sent to another planet.
Oh.
Is that called Dawn or is it Parable of the Sower? I read both of those. I can't remember which one is which.
Oh, this is Parable of the Sower, and this is like a
it's a dystopian.
Yes.
And it must be Dawn that I like better.
Yeah, I like her. She was a great writer. Dawn, yes. Part of the Exogenesis series.
Yeah, that's it. Dawn was my favorite of her books.
Lilith's Blood. Yeah, you can't go wrong with her at all.
She has a great short story called Blood Child or Bloodkin.
Oh.
It's often anthologized in horror, anthologized in science fiction because it's
it's here in Blood Child and other stories.
Blood Child. It's a little bit of both.
A little bit what?
A little bit of both. A little bit of horror, a little bit of science fiction.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with her.
So William, greetings, watching while waiting to do business at a bank. Libro Paradiso. I've been reading some fascinating Spanish language novels that unfortunately haven't been translated into English. But I took a break yesterday morning to read King's The Life of Chuck. It's the only end of the world story that made me smile. Okay. Patricia Fay. There is a version with John Cassavetes.
Mm-hmm.
Helen Mirren also did a Tempest movie.
Yeah, the Helen Mirren was.
What was that? What was
that? Patricia Fay is talking about.
Yeah,
a movie about the Tempest.
Oh, let me find it. Can you go back to that one? Oh no, here it is. I'm sorry. I thought Patricia. There was hi, Patricia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I'd love to see that. I have to research and try to find that.
So Randy Ray, Tiger Man was excellent. So I've really been looking forward to Titanium Noir. Tiger Man is the only Nick Harkaway book that I have not read.
You have to get on that.
Maybe. So here's Fred. Greg, a cruise. What was it like reading on a cruise ship with so many people? Did anyone come up and ask you what you were reading? No, because most of the time I spent reading in my stateroom. That's really just practical because on a cruise ship, they're playing music everywhere.
Yeah, that bothers you, huh?
And it bothers me. There was one spot on the third day were at sea, where we had this little niche where you could not hear a lot of music, and I was reading on my Kindle. So no one came up and asked me what I was reading. I did notice a woman like 4 or 5 seats down reading on her own Kindle. But
You guys see this?
what
So
was
it's
really
books
kind of fun.
helping introverts avoid conversation since 1454. Books.
What I really liked is that they have lots of shows on these cruise ships, and we went to a comedy show, and we left the comedy show, and we had to pass through this lounge, and there was this old couple, probably 70s, maybe 80s, and they were both reading paperback books. And the guy was reading some old, trashy looking paperback. And I wanted to stop and talk to him, but my wife was like, boom, she was out of there. And I didn't get to talk to him about it. So,
yeah. I heard there's really cool shows like magicians and that on cruises. And I'd be
sometimes it really depends on the cruise line. And it depends on the tour. There was apparently a mentalist the first night that I did not see.
Oh, that'd be fun.
It would be, but I did not see that show, so I couldn't tell you anything about it.
Yeah, like what number am I thinking of right now?
13.
5.
God, you got it, James. Damn. I didn't even have to say 1 to 20. That was good, James.
James, sorry if I missed it, but do you only read physical books? If not, do you read ebooks and listen to audiobooks?
All 3. Yeah, I do. I like different things for different formats. Ebooks and physical books are approximately the same. I don't think this would make any sense on a Kindle. Great big thing like that.
It would not work.
I don't think.
We were talking about that though. Is it the Kobe or made for graphic novels?
Maybe, but I don't think this would be great as an audiobook because there's just too much to follow. And I like generally like a biography or a memoir. I think is great for audiobook for me, just because if my attention wanders and I miss like some anecdote about what happened at the Video Music Awards in 1988, I don't care. It doesn't matter too much. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I see.
And saying hi, Fred. People saying hi. Oh, Flo Light's gobsmacked.
It's a good one.
Right. About the author typo. I just read it last week. Crazy. I think I'm missing something there. Libro, art discussions remind me of when J.G. Ballard put cars from crashes in a museum and hired a hostess. He wondered if anyone would show up. People did, and it was mayhem. It inspired him to write Crash. Okay. Harlan Ellison was her mentor. I'm not following that line of thought.
I think he's talking about Octavia Butler.
Oh, maybe? Octavia Butler. Okay, that would make sense. Ooh, The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover was my favorite Marin. I love that when I saw it in the theater. It's not available on streaming. I was going to rewatch it, but you can't find it.
I haven't thought about that for a long time, but that movie is wild. Yeah,
it is a wild movie. The oddest thing I remember is they had this girl singing just randomly through the movie in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just very bizarre.
I've not seen it.
Alan, it is just...
Yeah, Alan, you should watch that if you can find it.
If you can find it.
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah, I like
I
her a
would
lot.
if we're on
She's great
streaming
actress.
on Amazon, I'd watch it again. And I'm not a big movie fan, but I would
No.
do it. But
Yeah, must be
they no
good.
longer show it.
Must be kind of trippy movie. I'll check it out for sure.
Well,
I
it
think-
has some very unusual scenes, which would be inappropriate in a lot of today's society.
Huh. What year? Do you know? Remember? I can look
90s
it
or
up.
late 80s.
I think it
Oh,
was the
yeah.
late. Yeah, that's about the right.
Yeah, I like the 80s.
But that was
The
Peter
80s.
Greenaway, and he made a film based on The Tempest that I never saw, called Prosperous Books, which had
Wow.
yeah. Anyway,
So Libro says it's a rare sight to see anyone reading a book in public.
true.
There
I've
are a
seen people
number.
reading on the bus and on the train a lot.
There were a number of people on the boat sitting on lounges reading books. Or
Yeah.
Kindles. So it's
They
not
read on the
that
train and
uncommon.
bus. And in the park, you see people in Portland in the park reading. So I would argue that,
There are places for it, but in general, I would agree.
yeah, not as much as more, but people are reading in their cars.
So Belinda, I'm reading The Tempest, just met Caliban.
Oh,
who I
Caliban.
imagine looking as sounding something like Alan. Yes. And since he mentioned playing him, it works.
Caliban, yeah, the old drunken miscreant slave. Yeah, he. I like playing I like playing. One of my favorite characters is Iago too. He's like my favorite villain, Iago, from Othello.
Yeah, I am not what I am.
Or is it Edmund in King Lear? He's an evil bastard.
Yes.
So Libro, if Monica Bocelli read audiobooks, I'd convert. Who's Monica Bocelli?
Bellucci.
Bellucci.
She was an actress.
Oh,
What did she do?
we'd have to look it up.
There's
I know what actress I
unfortunately
like.
there's absolutely no way for us to find out, so we're just gonna have to roll with it.
All right. Maybe Libro will come
Italian, I
in.
presume.
Maybe he'd come in. Randy says it shows up on Criterion from time to time, probably talking about the cook, the thief, the wife, and her lover. I saw it in the theater. It deserves the right Criterion treatment. It's a beautiful film to watch on the big screen. I think it came out in '89. Great Michael Nyman.
Yes. The Michael Nyman score is great. Yeah, he scored a few other of Peter Greenaway's movies. That same director. There's two work together on a few things.
Randy says 1990, 91. Someone has the internet and could look this up for us.
Sure.
80s had the best movies and books. I might say 70s, but who's arguing? James, what are some books you would like to reread from your youth? That is a question from Fred.
Well, that's a fair question. I've recently reread, like in the last year, reread 3 of the books that were my favorites as a youth. Moby Dick, Great Gatsby, and Huckleberry Finn, which were always like, I'm not a big rereader, but those were always like the canonical classics that I always would say those were the ones that I liked the best.
Oh, great.
And I did reread them, and I still, so that's good. So let's see, something else that I would like to reread. I would Invisible Man. by Ralph Ellison.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Now, here's the question, James.
Yeah.
Do you remember the humor in that book?
Yes. Yeah. I think that book is hilarious. That's one of the reasons that I loved it so much.
I remember when I read it in college, I was in my 20s. I didn't pick up on the humor.
Mm-hmm.
And then I listened to the audiobook, probably 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a scene early in the book where the father is describing how he came to have a sexual relationship with his daughter.
Yep.
And I could, it's so horrifying. I was laughing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially with the narrator, because the narrator, you could just hear him holding back how absurd this scene is.
Right. And he's driving around one of the college trustees who's listening to this and is like so overcome with like horror that he faints or something.
I remember that now. I remember that scene. Yeah.
I think the introduction is a tour de force. Like, you're inside this guy's twisted mind. You're like, how did he get to this position? Yeah. And then it's like you flash back to the first scene of that.
The battle royale, the bot fight scene.
Okay, so that's incredibly brutal.
And that's the one where he's like a little kid. They blindfold him in that.
And at the end, they're like, well, you still have to give this speech. Because he was invited there because he won a prize for writing a speech. And he won a scholarship to college. So he does this, and they're like, well, you still got to give the speech. And he's like covered in... it's crazy. It's nuts.
And it's the only book he ever wrote. Or ever finished.
So he worked on Juneteenth for a long time. And I've never read Juneteenth. But they published it like after you died,
and it just never took off. People probably said,
yeah,
like how do you follow up Invisible Man?
He should have, by all rights. You read that book, you wish there were like 4 more of them that he had written. He did write a lot of nonfiction, none of which I've read. So I'll probably explore that because I love Invisible Man so much.
What about, when's the last time you read Native Son?
I read that a few years ago, and it was the only time I read it. I don't think I'm not keen to read it again.
No,
it's those two are kind of often paired together.
Yes.
And I guess, Native Son is like, it's like the guy has a terrible first day at work. And it doesn't get it better from there, and the second half is all
at work. Yeah.
Yes, the second half of that book is like 3 people giving extremely long speeches that very explicitly lay out the theme of the novel, and that's not the kind of book that I tend to want to reread. But maybe someday.
Yeah, I thought it was really powerful. I've read it a couple times. I've tried to give it away. I set it up on a bookshelf once. On the cover, it says, "This is a great novel, Alan, 22 July 2020. Nobody picked it up, so I took it back.
No one picked it up.
It's in bad shape.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to read my annotation.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to reread Wonder Boys by Michael Chabon.
We're doing... Alan and Mark with Book Time with Elvis sort of have an unofficial Michael Chabon group.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, you should join him.
I should.
We should do Wonder Boys for 2025.
Okay.
Well, invite you, James.
He was a favorite. I'm due to reread Crime and Punishment, I guess, if we're still talking about Fred's question.
Which translation are you going to go for?
Maybe I'll go old school and go with Constance Garnett.
You might be the worst translator.
I know. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess maybe I'll try a P&V. I haven't read any of their translations, so maybe I'll give that a try.
Yeah, husband and wife team.
Yeah, I got a recent Michael Katz translation,
Okay. Right.
and apparently he's a very good compromise.
Mhm.
The P&V translation is extremely literal,
Mhm.
Oh,
and the one example is in their translation. You're in Raskolnikov's little attic, and he has a table, and they describe the table as round and oval. And
Yes.
people commented, that's a really bad translation. They messed
Mhm.
up. And then someone pointed out in the original Russian, he uses the equivalent of round and oval.
Huh.
oh yeah, you pointed that out before. Yeah.
Because
All right. Well,
Dostoevsky apparently was a very bad stylist.
I've got a
He
graphic
wrote in a
novel,
white
Crime and
heat.
Punishment.
That's a graphic, yeah. He wrote in a white
Yeah.
heat, and he didn't fix things. So the P&V did it very literally.
mhm.
They said, well, in the literal Russian, it says round and oval. So we're going to translate it round and oval.
Mm.
Most translators try to clean him up a little bit. Now, maybe that's a good plan. Maybe it's not. I don't know. It's still a great, whichever version you read, it's a great book.
Mm-hmm. Violent. Quite violent.
Any others, James?
I'm thinking I'm well overdue to reread Heart of Darkness,
Mm.
and then
I
maybe
recently reread that one.
and then maybe any other thing by Conrad, because I've never read any other Conrads. So
Yeah, I have this little collection. Has I didn't read the stories in it, but I reread it last year, the year before. Amy Foster. It's another.
Yeah, I'm very tempted to reread Conrad's The Secret Agent in November
Oh,
because we're doing Dr. November again, which is
Mhm.
all about espionage fiction.
Okay.
that'd be a good one.
It is.
The Secret Agent. That's where Marlowe makes his first appearance.
No, it's no Marlowe and Secret Agent.
Oh, okay. Marlowe's in Youth. My fault. I'm giving out false information.
So Monica is in the current Beetlejuice film.
Okay.
Okay. I still can't picture her in my mind. Speaking of the 80s, says Fred, my wife and I watched Killer Clowns from Outer Space the other day.
Yeah, it's a great
Classic
movie.
80s movie. James Allen Gregg, do you have a favorite 80s movie?
Hmm.
A Clockwork Orange.
That's 70s.
Yeah, all it is.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
I like that. I love the book. I've got a couple of posters. I've got a poster when it was rated X. Still a big poster, a Clockwork Orange. But an '80s film. Oh man, I I like Little Big Man. That's '70s too. When was Once Upon a Time in New York? That's a great gangster movie.
That might have been 80s.
Maybe.
Noodles was the guy's name.
Yeah, you remember it? Noodles. That was a good movie.
I'm thinking of like The Howling, The Hunger,
Yeah, The Hunger with
The Road Warrior.
yeah George Miller, director, World War. Yeah, those were. I saw that in the theater.
I think of
Mad Max.
Mad Max was 70s, I think. The original.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think.
George Miller, Australian.
Mhm.
Those wow.
I hope Raising Arizona was in the 80s and not the 90s.
Yeah, the Coen brothers.
I guess that I'll answer that. But I don't know. When I hear the phrase 80s movie, I don't think movies from the 80s. I think of this kind of specific set of like
I think of Porky's.
comedies. Yeah, something like that. Maybe Caddyshack.
That's a great movie, though. I love Caddyshack.
Yeah,
I was
a lot of the classic Bill Murray things like Ghostbusters. All right, Back to the Future. Probably Back to the Future. You know what a good Bill Murray film is Razor's Edge. You know, the Somerset Maugham novel. That's a great serious movie he made. Back in the day in the 80s, I had 2 VCRs and I had this little adapter where I could make the edits. Remember, they would you couldn't copy them; they'd be all squiggly. Well, this little device would take the squigglies out. So I had a ton of movies, like all Hitchcock, all Woody Allen, all I can't remember just a lot. Okay, I've looked it up. Raising Arizona is 1987, so I'm safe.
There you go.
Oh, you're good.
All right.
So Libro, her best films are Irreversible and Melania. I've always wanted to watch Irreversible. Never got around to it.
Oh.
Neiman also scored The Piano.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great score.
I love 70s music and movies too, says Constance.
Yeah.
Constance, I missed the humor in Invisible Man. The scene you mentioned stuck with me. I just found it horrifying. I was the same way the first time I read the book. I don't think I was not old enough, and I missed it. And part of it again was the audio version, where the narrator, you could hear it in his voice. Hey, Courtney.
Hey, Courtney, I was just thinking about you. We have to get Courtney back on the show.
Alan, you're the scheduler.
Yeah, probably that won't be till next year.
Probably not.
Yeah, I'll hit Courtney up again.
Nabokov detested Dostoevsky in any language.
Oh, you did?
And Tolstoy hated Shakespeare.
So. Well, for Nabokov, he was such an exact stylist. I mean, if you read like Lolita, it is just like the perfectly written English language novel.
Yeah,
and from what I've been told from a friend who was fluent in Russian, it was a native language, his Russian was just as exact and perfect. And Dostoevsky said was just a hot mess as a stylist. And like I said, he wrote in a white heat, couldn't correct his mistakes. So someone like Nabokov would just go, no, you're not taking any time to correct your craft.
Good point.
But Dostoevsky had this heat to him that many authors don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Conrad is always with me. He is very popular among Central and Latina American writers. Libro, I saw American Gigolo when I was a kid. It was on HBO, and Cat People remake. Oh man, I loved the Cat People remake when I was in high school.
Yeah, wasn't David Bowie in that?
No, David Bowie was in The Hunger.
That's right, with Catherine Deneuve and Susan
Sarandon. Michael McDowell.
Vampire movie.
Is in Cat People, and what was her name?
Catherine Deneuve.
No, in Cat People, the beautiful Natasha Kinski.
Oh,
she was gorgeous.
I just like saying Catherine Deneuve.
I just like saying Natasha Kinski.
Yeah, they're both really cool, huh?
They are.
Oh, to be young again.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking about how about Greta Scacchi? Does anybody remember her, the actress? Greta Scacchi. She was a good actress.
Now, James, you might be too young for this, but in the 80s,
Jeez.
when I was in high school, no one ever bothered carding people going to the movies.
Hell no.
You could walk up to an R-rated movie, you hand in your $5 for a ticket, and they just handed you your ticket, and they never
I
said,
do remember, Greg. I grew up around walking distance from a two screen theater. It was really small. They did foreign films in Toledo, Ohio when I was a kid. I remember we'd have to prop the door open and sneak in the back though sometimes to get into the R ones.
Now,
I was that little.
I'm not too young to remember that, but the theater on Main Street where I lived, it kind of depended who was selling the tickets, whether you could get it.
Because nowadays, I guess they're really strict on carding people.
Yeah.
Oh, they are?
And I'm going like, why?
Mm.
What is the harm of a 15-year-old walking into an R-rated movie?
What can they get on their phone? It's so stupid to card
It
people.
is.
That's such bullshit. Somebody wants to get slapped in the face after work, I think. Oh yeah, you're gonna card me?
So Libro, Paris, Texas, and Wings of Desire. Perfect.
Oh yeah, there you go. Vim
Very
Bitter.
good,
Yeah, man. Paris, Texas is good.
Oh, he likes Blade Runner.
Oh, you don't?
I saw Blade Runner opening night in the theater.
Did you camp outside?
No. And the end to the movie Blade Runner has to be the worst movie ending of all time.
Here we go. Because it has like an alien abduction.
No, it's a very forced happy ending.
Oh,
Greg,
What?
I've seen
can't
things you
remember.
people wouldn't believe. No,
I can't remember. I can't
I
remember
didn't like Blade Runner either, and I can't abide the music. The score I think is terrible for Blade Runner.
And yet some people say it's the best science fiction movie ever made,
Hmm.
and I just don't understand it.
I don't remember the ending. Huh?
Do you want me
Is
to
it the
spoil
same
the
ending
ending
as
for you, Alan?
Is it the same ending as the novel?
No.
No.
I'll spoil the ending. So if you've not seen the ending of Blade Runner, hold your ears.
La la la.
Okay, Alan, the whole idea is the main character, Deckard, was hunting for androids.
Uh-huh.
And he meets this girl, he falls in love. And they said, oh, she's an android. And androids are supposed to die after 10 years. They're programmed, hardwired to die after 10 years. So he's not going to have a long time with his android love. But in the very last scene of the movie, they're in their flying car.
Huh.
They're flying away, and the voiceover narration says, oh, she's a special android.
Oh,
She
yeah.
wasn't programmed to die in 10 years.
Yeah.
And
I can
if I
see
had
why you
tomatoes, I would be throwing it at the screen.
Yeah, that is a super duper happy ending, isn't it?
Yeah.
It does have a great speech in it. The
Rutger Hauer.
yes,
And I remember that was not in the script.
okay.
I kind of said, someone said that was not in the script. That was Rutger Hauer.
Just made it up.
Basically said, hey, director, what about this?
That's
You
it.
know, and
Okay.
the thing is, sometimes actors really do
Ad-lib good.
ad-lib great
Mm.
scripts. There was, if you remember the movie Jaws,
Yes.
Robert Shaw was talking about why he hated sharks so much.
Right.
That was not in the script.
All right.
Robert Shaw saying, "Hey, director, what about this?"
Hmm.
So they can do it, but
I wonder why he was thinking about that.
I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
You know,
Hannah and Her Sisters. That is also a good one.
Now I wonder if Gareth liked Blade Runner, but we'll see what he says. Go ahead, James.
well, I made some bad comments about Blade Runner, so there may be some comments later on. We'll get
Yeah,
to
I
it.
see some coming up, but you were saying something?
Brazil was a great 80s movie. I love Brazil.
Oh, Brazil. Hell yes.
See, so that movie had one of the most perfect endings of all time.
God, I forget how that ends, too.
Yeah, me too.
You
I
don't
know it's
remember?
not Graham Chapman, but who's the artist for
No,
Monty
it's
Python?
Michael Palin is the main bad guy.
So
And I'll
Terry,
spoil it
Terry
again.
Gilliam is the.
Yeah, as a
Terry
director.
Gilliam.
Yeah.
But in this
I like
movie,
that.
he's being held prisoner and he's being tortured. And as he's being tortured, someone busts in and frees him, and he has this whole elaborate escape. And he flies off in the sunset with his lady love, sort of like Blade Runner. And then it cuts away, and it shows the guy in the chair, totally comatose. And you just realize he's just imagining his escape. It is the Ambrose Spear story, bridge
Right.
over whatever.
Right. The Hanging. Uh-huh.
Hanging incident of Owl Creek Bridge.
That's it. Who can forget that one? We all
That's
saw it in school.
so.
Yeah.
I guess you know what kind of movies I like in my endings.
Abrupt.
Don't forget Porky's. Oh man, that was terrible.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that. That was
And
talk about
Conan too.
VCRs. Yeah.
Agreed. Patricia Faye, Brazil. Time Bandits.
Yeah, it's a funny one. George
You remember
Harrison.
Time
produced
Bandits?
it. Yeah. The little person actor, he's funny.
All right.
Brazil.
Cinema Paradiso. I've never seen Cinema Paradiso.
It's good.
Brazil.
Libro. I have Time Bandits on Blu-ray. I will have to watch that in October. Read by Fred. It's a radical film for kids to watch. Full of wonderful mystery. Ada is his favorite Nabokov novel.
Okay.
Favorite Bill Murray movie is St. Vincent.
That's a good one, too.
Libro also likes Natasha Kinski.
Yeah. No argument.
Greta Scacchi is the player in Jefferson in Paris.
Mm-hmm. I like her a lot. I haven't thought about her in A Coon's Age.
When Exorcist came out, it was R and I got in underage. My mom was miffed.
I bet. Boy, I remember watching that with my brother. We were frightened for weeks.
Greta Scacchi is great. She is fun episode of Miss Marple.
Oh, no, she's still acting. Wow. She was big in the 80s.
Gareth Blade Runner absolutely loved the Time to Die speech. Blade Runner was screened in Dallas, Texas, and the audience was confused and did not like the ambiguous ending, which led to the happy ending and voiceover.
Yeah, I can see that. F in Hollywood, you know.
I've heard that they just stuck that in afterwards without the director's total consent, but
I don't know what I said to upset Libro Parrot. I'm always upsetting him somehow.
Yeah. How dare you? How dare you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people used to push my buttons all the time. Yeah, so you know what I did? I got a smaller button.
Newberry saw Blade Runner. Yes, Wings of Desire.
Ben Bitters.
Gorgeous. Greg, have you read Electronic Sheep? So much better than the film. I have read it. I did like it better than the film. I am due for a reread, though.
PDK. Never. I think Courtney's talking about being on the show.
TV version of Brazil gives it a happy ending.
Oh,
Oh, so they just probably cut off the ending where you find out that it's all a dream and just let you pretend that it's reality. I said Brazil was my favorite film for decades. I'm a huge Terry Gilliam fan. Time Bandit is a work of genius too.
yeah. George Harrison was he produced one of the producers on Time Bandits. He was a big fan.
George Harrison, as I remember, produced The Life of Brian.
I don't.
Time Bandits too. He
I
had,
think
like,
it was the
he had
other
to
one.
save Time Bandits.
The Holy Grail was the one that he produced.
But Time Bandits he had to save financially.
I'm pretty sure it was Life of Brian because the studio's going, this is sort of sacrilegious and we don't want to put money into it. And then one of the Beatles said, oh, I'll put money into this.
Well, it would have been George Harrison because he was the one who was doing that kind of thing.
Greg never believes a word I say.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I like 12 Monkeys too.
Yeah. Did you ever see the there was a short film that it was based on called La Jetée? Basically the kind of infinite time travel loop thing, but it's almost like a film strip, like there's I don't think there's any motion in it. It's all stills and it's in French and about 15 minutes long. So no one was interested in that.
I know. I might be. I mean, would you get it on YouTube? You think, or you'd have to pick it up somewhere?
It might be. It might be on YouTube. The filmmaker's name was Chris Marker, like Magic.
What's it called again?
La Jetée. It's the jetty, but in French.
La Jetty. Yeah. So, hello, Diane. So, Read by Fred was spooky season just around the corner. What are your favorite horror novels?
I don't read a lot of horror novels. I like a short horror story. I like Poe, and Telltale Heart, The Mask of the Red Death, things like that. And I think when you horror stretched out too much at too great a length, it's not as horrifying, I guess, for me.
I kind of agree a little bit. Because for horror to be really effective, I think atmosphere is very important to the story. I know I'm doing Salem's Lot by Stephen King in October for my 70s horror project. And I sometimes have an issue with Stephen King in his horror books, that he's really good with the buildup. And then at the end of the book, he just lets everything loose. It's just like, okay, just everything goes,
Yeah. I like I used to read a lot of horror back in the 80s again, like Clive Barker, and I've read a lot of Stephen King too. My favorite horror novel, I said this before, is probably Dan Simmons' The Terror. Really impressed with that. I've read it a few times.
Yeah. He did a couple of good books. The one book by him I've been meaning to reread is his first, and that is The Song of Kali.
I've not read that. I read Drood. I love that. I've read his Hyperbion, but that's not horror.
That's science fiction. So.
Yeah. I want to read the one you mentioned. I think I have it on order or hold it. something, The Fifth Heart, something like that. It's
I've never read The Fifth Art. That's the one with Sherlock Holmes.
yeah. I'll say that till next year for the.
Oh, and Alan and I are doing a buddy read of Devil House next month.
Yeah.
Devil House.
Yes.
Who's the author in Devil House?
John Darnielle.
Oh, wait a second. I know that author from something.
Well, he wrote Universal Harvester and Wolf in White Van,
I've read Universal Harvester. That's the one.
which starts out as a horror novel and then kind of wanders off into just what are these people doing? It's kind of a cult story, I suppose. But yeah, I like Wolf in White Van a lot more than Universal Harvester. But yeah, so we're gonna see what we think of Devil House.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, October is one of my favorite months. Just for October, and I love Halloween. Get out my Halloween decorations. We were talking about me and the art director downstairs in the studio. We're talking about a haunted house. He's got a friend. Showed me online. It's a huge haunted house with probably like 50 people who work there. They got a picture of all the people, and we're going to check that out. And we're going to try to do a haunted house in the art studio downstairs for the kids. So that'd be fun.
Cool.
I'll vlog that. But yeah,
We'll
I
all
used to like
come
to go to hay rides, all that, labyrinth, those like corn mazes, and like October.
Mm-hmm. So, Gareth, yeah, it was handmade films. They asked George Harrison why he put so much money into it. He says, because I want to see the film.
Yeah.
If you got the money.
Yeah, I'm pretty
La
good at
Jessie is a fascinating film and the inspiration for the 12 Monkeys. Hold on for 1 second. I'm going to write that down in my La Jetty. I got to remember that. Yeah, it's a special edition DVD. I think it's on YouTube too. And he said it's not very long, right?
Yeah, it's a short film. It's probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes
that's
maybe.
cool. Yeah. Book, songs, and other magic without spoiling for anyone who hasn't seen it here. But do remember that magical scene in the movie? It was a beautiful surprise. He says Blood Meridian by McCarthy is my favorite horror novel. I don't know if I would count that as a horror novel.
No.
It has horrific. I mean, it has horrific scenes in it. Don't. It is one of the most violent novels I have ever read.
Yeah.
So Jess also has The Devil House on her bookshelf.
Well, Alan and I are reading it next month.
The Haunting of Hill House is my favorite scary book.
I read The Haunting of Hill House. That's pretty good. I was looking for my Blood Meridian. I might have given it away. I think I gave it away to somebody, but yeah, I'm a big McCarthy fan. But
I'm a fan of his early books.
Yeah, I like Old Country for Old Men. I thought that's a good book. I've seen the movie too, but the book has Tommy Lee Jones's character. It's all like in italics, the beginning of each chapter. It's really a cool written book. And No Country from Old Men is the first line from Yeats's poem, Sailing to Byzantium, by the way.
Just saying what we're all thinking, Alan.
Hey, book chat from Pat is over in Dublin, and she's having a great time. God, what made me think of that? She went to like a Samuel Beckett exposition. It was really cool.
All right. Shirley Jackson, I guess, is considered a horror writer.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I think We Have Always Lived in the Castle. That's one I would like to reread because
that's an interesting book as well.
it's a real kind of atmosphere. It doesn't seem that scary to me. I don't know how much horror has to be like. I feel personally scared.
There is this fine line in something like Haunting of Hill House, where you don't really know what's going on.
Mm.
And that's part of the spookiness of the book.
Yeah.
And like I said, with Stephen King, if Stephen King had written Haunting of Hill House, there would be no question at the end of the book what was going on. He just can't. He'd be unable to have that ambiguity.
Mm.
Going like, is this all in her brain,
Right?
Or is it a haunting?
Right.
He would be unable to do that. So that's why I think it's horror adjacent book.
Mm.
It can appeal to some horror writers, but I don't think it crosses over into that genre. So Diane, October, November are my favorite months. And mine too.
Hey,
Yeah, I love the fall.
we're all in agreement.
Mm-hmm. Not sure which scene you mean. Probably from La Jetée. I gotta remember that title, that movie, so I don't forget it when I sign off. La Jetée is on YouTube. I just looked; it's only 27 minutes.
There you go.
Cool. All the Pretty Horses is a beautiful novel. It is also a favorite of the German filmmaker Werner Herzog.
I love Werner Herzog.
Okay. Okay, we're at the end of our comments. Hold on for 1 second.
Hope you're not getting the COVID-19.
My wife has it, so I'll probably have it or will get it.
Huh. Yeah, man. That's too bad. Like I said, I've never had it.
I've never had it either until now.
Oh.
Werner Herzog did a great remake of Nosferatu, which
didn't remake it.
It might have been in the 80s.
And
it had
I remember that remake now.
It had Klaus Kinski, father of Natasha Kinski, I think he was the one who played the vampire in it.
Okay.
Extremely creepy.
Yes. Big fangs.
And Herzog and Kinski worked together on a lot of films, and Kinski was very difficult to control, as an actor and as a human being. He was just kind of a maniac. And then Herzog made a movie about his relationship with Klaus Kinski called My Best Fiend, which is worth watching if you like that. Like Burden, what was it? Fitzcarraldo was like their first one, where they're taking a steamship over a mountain, and this is supposed to make a bunch of money so that someone can build an opera house. It's pretty crazy, but Libro Paradiso knows what I'm talking about, I'm pretty sure.
That's all right. So what other events are people participating in the rest of this year? We're getting into the last quarter of the year.
Yeah. I was contemplating starting one for November, which would be Chekhov-ember. Chekhov in November. And now Chekhov. I'm gonna pull an Allen. Hold on a second.
Yeah, I haven't read any Chekhov in decades. Like we used to read. I was a theater major, so I've read like Cherry Orchard and Three Sisters.
So there's like four major. I'm holding up three fingers. There's four major Chekhov plays. Cherry Orchard, Three Sisters, Uncle Vanya,
Oh yeah,
and the other one that we won't remember.
Uncle Vanya.
Yeah, and the Seagull.
Oh yeah, the seagull. I'll keep forgetting that.
And then I have this selected stories of Anton Chekhov, translated by good old PNV. It has
Oh, wow.
it has 30 stories in it, and there's 30 days in November. We can read one story per day. We could read one play a week, and then we'll have read most of the major works of Chekhov in 1 month.
That's
I
for
have
November.
the Seagull,
That's what I'm
Uncle
thinking.
Vanya,
Yeah.
Three Sisters, and
Yep.
the Cherry Orchard.
You got
Wow.
it. So you could either
Running
do
short stories, great.
you could
I have-
either do the plays, or we could do the stories.
Oh, you have them. Wow, you're all set.
These are old translations, though.
Oh yeah. I haven't read a lot of his short stories. So I'd be basically reading them for the first time. But I mean, he's known for being a
Yeah,
genius. Yeah, short story writer. Well, as a
not
playwright.
Constant Garnett.
Constant Garnett.
You get
Oh,
extra points if you do it with Constance Garnett's translation.
And Dunnigan, and this one, another one.
Well, that sounds like a good idea, James.
And Dunnigan for all three of my paperbacks.
There you go. The Dunnigan trifecta, they call it.
All right, so that PV translation.
Yes, from
They do have
Modern
one.
Library. Yeah. I'm thrown off a little bit because my thing is reversed. So yeah, but it's the Modern Library version that I have. So, but that's what I was thinking of doing in November. And then what are you guys doing for events in the rest of the year?
Well, we got October. I can't even keep up. Victober, I might try to read North and South. I've tried before and failed miserably. I even tried to buddy read it with Brian at Bookish, and he read it, enjoyed it. It's been sitting on my shelf for years. What else, Greg? I don't forget.
Well, I have October. In November, I have Dr. November that's reading espionage. In December, we have a Cthulhu Christmas.
Yeah, I'll
Third
do
annual
that.
Cthulhu Christmas.
Yeah, we've been doing that for a couple years.
Third year.
Third.
I think that's all that I'm scheduled for.
Yeah, so November would be a good time for Chekhov. Be like a free education again.
Yeah.
So you're thinking of doing one play a week?
Yeah. And
Yeah, and then a short story day, that might be too much for me.
Short story a day might
Sounds
be
ambitious. It's like Angelia's doing that story a day too. And it's really good at the beginning, but after a while, it's like, oh damn, he's doing a good job though.
and his short stories are long.
They are.
Ward 6 is about
Ward 6 is like his longest story.
57 pages.
Yeah, Ward 6 is
Nope.
is the longest one.
Nope. The duel. That's 100 pages.
Well, the duel is not in my book, so it doesn't count.
It doesn't count. Well, this was probably considered a novella.
Yeah.
Now this one, Ward 6, only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories in it. Selected short stories. This may be more what you're thinking of. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19. Does not have a Lady with a Lapdog.
Oh no.
That is like his most famous short story.
Yes. So most of the ones in this book are like between 5 and 10 pages, except for
Ward 6.
Ward 6, and this does not bode well. A boring story, which is 55 pages.
A boring story is 55 pages.
I mean, don't try and sell us too hard on it, Anton.
Well, let's check to see what
I'm going to check on the PV
there
translation.
is a 52 story translated by P&V for $6 on Kindle. Is that the one you have? You have something else.
Yeah, it's not on Kindle. It's Modern Library, and it's
Oh,
got
you have the selected stories of Anton Chekhov.
Yes.
Oh, that's only $2.99.
There you go.
It's also P&V.
Mm-hmm.
That's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So there you go. We've got an event.
We might have an event here.
I might have it. So that's probably what I'll do in November.
Yeah, I'm trying to check it on Thrift Books because I like to get a physical copy.
Well, someone mentioned it in the comments. I'm going to get to it. Hold on for a second. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me.
Gesundheit.
Thank you. Let's see where these comments are. Someone mentioned that you can get a lot of them online.
Mm-hmm.
Without spoiling it, yeah, Blood Meridian did that one.
Yeah, how about The Damnation Game by Clive Barker for best horror novels?
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's his first one. That was when he was a horror writer and not like a kind of fantasy.
It's one horrific scene after another. I like Blood Meridian a lot. It's like watching what Colonel Kurtz did in Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, the Indians, Cowboys and Indians.
It starred the beautiful Isabel Adjani.
I don't know her. But
The
you're
rat
Isabella
terrible end.
It's Geraldo as well. I said Libro Paradiso knows what I'm talking about.
Art house films were my mainstay in my 20s.
Like Eraserhead.
Kieslowski, yeah.
Yep. Eraserhead was a wild ass movie.
Mm-hmm. I like David Lynch. I've seen all his stuff. Blue Velvet. He's great.
Chekhov stories.
I find him incredibly boring.
You do? Yeah. I can see that. I can see that.
It's Sliding Doors done better many years before, Blind Chance. And The Double Life of Veronica and the Decalogue.
So Kieslowski, yeah.
Yep, that constant saying Chekhov stories are available probably
online
on Project Gutenberg.
Mm-hmm.
You will probably have to deal with the Constant Garnett translation, though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I actually think I have the Constant Garnett on my Kindle, now that I think about it. So Diane says, yay, way to go. A new event teamwork. But is this an event that can be repeatable every year, or is it just going to be
Yeah, we'll just do it again.
Just read them all again.
Yeah, it sounds ambitious, though. Play a week and then,
it may be a little heavy.
It might be.
But that's how we like it.
No.
And heaviness.
I mean, we could just do the plays one year and the stories another year. It's possible.
It's possible.
Let's stretch it out.
Hmm.
Would you want to do the plays or you want to do the stories for?
Well, we do play and story, like first 2 weeks do a couple plays and second 2 weeks do stories.
Could do that.
Could do that.
And
Couldn't
my-
do them all.
we have a
Now,
couple-
the one thing I have to say is with most short story collections, there's a lot of filler.
What do you mean? Oh,
In a short story collection, there's a bunch of duds.
oh yeah, okay.
Just
That's
some stories they're not as good as
Not
others.
like top 10 hits. Yeah.
Right. So if you were thinking about it, you would pick like week one of his plays, week two, three of his short stories, week three, one of his plays, then week four,
Yeah.
three of his short stories. So you get a mixture of short stories. And now you might want to think about it, not necessarily exactly that way, but like go chronological. Did he start his short stories first or his plays first? I'm not sure. You just look at publication date
Hmm.
and say we're doing these this week and these that next week, something like that.
It's a good
Have you
idea.
seen his plays, James?
I mean, I've seen film versions of them.
Oh,
I haven't ever seen one performed live.
neither. Me neither. But yeah, I mean, I was a theater major at Kent State, and you think I know we read and studied him because you have to, he's. But I'm surprised I haven't seen any of his plays or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think I vaguely remember the Cherry Orchard.
Mm-hmm.
Or fuck.
Well, the Cherry Orchard's the one that has the gun.
That's where you get the famous gun on the mantle, right?
Oh,
Well, yes, but
Right.
you have to read the Cherry Orchard and find out what happens with the gun.
Oh wow! I was just looking at my Chekhov play. I found my receipt
oh,
for this book.
I like when that happens.
I bought this book on 12/7/86.
Oh God, man! I just graduated high school.
I paid 50 cents for this book.
I take it back. I just graduated college. I graduated high school in '82. But man,
It's
just
kinda,
getting around to reading it.
I don't think I think I've read one of his plays out of here. I think I read The Seagull.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, great idea, James.
It's a good one.
Thank you.
We'll have to start promoting it next month.
I suppose so. Well, first we
Yeah,
have to decide what it's
November,
actually
yeah.
going to be. But I mean, look, we've got the portmanteau for the name, Chekovember. The rest of it just falls into place.
What's the name again? Check up in November.
Chekovember.
Chekhov-ember.
Yeah.
Check November. Oh, okay.
All right. Libro, yes. A Decalogue, especially amazing. Death by events.
That's what he says.
The thing is, events can really get overwhelming. That's what I'm saying is like, let's not do a story a day.
Maybe not. Thanks,
Thanks,
Constance.
guys. Great to hang out with you.
Yeah, Constance.
Thanks for dropping by, Constance. Chekhov is very rich. Any one of his stories will leave you in a contemplative mind.
Contemplative.
I know I'm running out of my voice as COVID's hitting me.
Speak the speech trippingly off the tongue.
I remember one story about a woman whose son is dying, The doctor may or may not be the father. He is not her husband. Jess has to go. Goodbye.
Oh.
Jess.
Jess.
Thanks for sticking around so long, Jess.
Yeah, we've been here an hour and 45 minutes, so
Yeah, time flies.
it does fly. And my voice is leaving me, so I'm probably gonna have to say it's probably about time for me to call it quits too.
All right.
Yeah, another one is about a peasant girl who worked daily and at night must remain awake to stop the newborn from crying. She never sleeps. All right. Great chat, guys, says Gareth.
Thank you, Gareth.
All right. So James, let's
Greg?
do a little bit of research.
Yep.
On Chekhov stories. What are the best Chekhov stories? And
Indeed.
Let's create a schedule. Let's do
All
this.
right. Sounds good.
All right.
We've got a thing.
All right, everyone.
Right,
In
Gareth.
the chat room. I hope everyone has a great night and a great week.
Yeah,
And
Greg.
we'll catch you later.
Feel better, Greg.
I hope so.
Thanks.
Good night, everyone.